There were lots of questions about skins during the recent dev tour, and that is not surprising since just a few days before we had the update that introduced the new gold Patreon skin, as well as multiple combination skins across the dragon species. First, let's start off with some foundation knowledge on what skins are and how to get them. A skin is exactly what it sounds like. It's the colour and pattern your dragon has. Skins include eye colours, and in a few species, some or part of the skin colour will show dimorphism depending on the gender of your dragon. There are 3 types of skins: spawn, exotic and crafted. All of these skins can be obtained through hatching out of a nest with parents of the same skin. Spawn skins are obtained through hatching a parentless dragon from the spawn menu and by clicking random or iconic. All dragons have an iconic skin, and is the skin that best represents the default look of the dragon species. Spawn skins come in different rarities, so it may take quite a few tries to eventually get a hatchling with the skin you are looking for. Exotic skins are obtained through game keys, or unlocking them from within the game itself. They will appear on the spawn menu to select. These currently include the Melanistic, which is unlocked by being nested and growing up as any iconic skin dragon, and the upcoming Sandslayer skin that can be unlocked by killing a Sandslayer worm. You will need to spawn as a fresh dragon to apply these skins after unlocking them. They unlock on a server by server basis, but are not locked to dragons. So if you raise a fast growing iconic Biolumin dragon and unlock the Melanistic, you will then have the option to spawn as Melanistic for all other dragon species on the server. The Leucistic and Lumelon are Kickstarter exclusive from select tiers and thus can no longer be obtained outside of nesting. And the Crimson and Gold are reward skins from the Patreon, Crimson coming from the Dragon tier and Gold coming from hitting $200 donated throughout the course of your patronage. You do not need to remain a Patreon to keep these skins unlocked. Reward tiers do not have to be reached within one payment, and payment does not need to be continuous. You can cancel your pledge at any time and then reactivate it. You will still be making the same progress to the reward tiers. I feel it's important not to see Patreon as a shop. By pledging, you gain access to see behind the scenes animations, progress, exclusive developer streams and Q&As, as well as access to the test server whenever they need some extra dragon power to root out bugs and test new mechanics. If however you want to access the Crimson and the newly introduced Gold right away, the devs have a yearly subscription tier that makes sure you reach that threshold immediately, as well as giving you a year of full access Patreon. Please note, Patreon will take the payment in full at the time of purchase. I myself am happy to stay at the lower tier and slowly build up over time. It may take me a couple more years, but I feel I'm getting a lot more value with this method, and we can all nest to gain access to any of these skins regardless. Nesting unlocks the final type of skin. Crafted. These skins cannot be selected from the spawn menu and can only be obtained from nesting particular combinations of dragon skins to hopefully get a brand new one. Once hatched, these skins can pass down through nesting just like any other skin. Shimmer and bioglows are sometimes confused as skins, but are instead effects added on top of the existing skins. If you are a Kickstarter, you can add Shimmer to the Melanistic, and those with the Leucistic, Lumelon and Crimson skins are able to add Shimmer to their respective unlocks. The $200 tier reward on Patreon also gives players the option to add Shimmer to any skin except Melanistic, Leucistic or Lumelon, and thankfully it can be removed as it's not always the best choice for each skin. The Bioglow on the other hand is a limited time effect your dragon can get if spat on by a Biolumin dragon, though rumour tells of a possible cave that might also add the effect. These effects cannot be passed down through nesting. Players are currently having a tough time with the gold skin as devs try out some new mechanics. Not only is it rare, so your best chance of nesting is with 2 golds, but it can also produce a non-metallic variation called Firefly, though it has been lovingly nicknamed Cheese by many players. A big thank you goes out to Lady Fox on Discord who put together this chart, as well as all of the players who submitted their screenshots. Best of luck to all you gold nesters. Now onto the future skins with 1.0. At the moment the skin system is still being put together and, as always with such an early point in development, much can change. However, with the comments, hints and current way of breeding system, I think I have at least a basic idea of the sort of system Be Awesome are aiming for. Please note that everything from this point on is speculative, not confirmed. Each dragon will have 1 skin but 2 palettes tied to that skin. For fresh spawns, these will likely be the same palettes. I believe Be Awesome means to make use of these palettes the same way as Aelios in real world genetics. When nesting, both parents will have 2 palettes, but the egg can only inherit one from the father and one from the mother. The mother will then be able to design the hatchling from the palettes inherited, creating the final look of the skin. The more mutation points in both parents' breeding tree, the more options the mother will have. I believe with no points in breeding, the hatchling will get either the skin from one palette or the other, but as more points are invested into the breeding mutation tree, there could be other options such as swapping one or more colours between palettes, and maybe even shifting the hue or tone of the colours lightly. We won't truly know what options will be available to customise the skins until it comes to testing finally in 1.0. For example, there are a lot of calls from players for the hatchlings to be the one to design the skin instead of the mother, and I for one would have to agree with this shift, as while it is fun not knowing exactly what you're going to look like when you hatch, or to maybe work with the mother in designing the skin, it is just a lot more streamlined to simply give the player the power over how they look with the options their parents have provided. I do however believe that no matter what changes you make to the skin, the inherited palettes themselves won't change. The reason the exotic colours will be so hard to pass down is that if you have 2 different palette options, it will often be the more common palette that passes down, and when it comes to exotic palettes, they might not be able to pass down at all if they have a more dominant palette to compete with. Let's see this in practice. With 2 Lumerin parents, which I'm now going to call grey because I really struggle with that word, all of the hatchlings will inherit the matching pair of grey palettes. However, if one of the parents had melanistic parent, which is another exotic gene, then while all the eggs will inherit the one grey palette from the one parent, they could inherit either the grey or the melanistic palette from parent 2. The hatchling skins could then be customised using the palettes inherited depending on how many mutation points the parents have invested into breeding. Things start to get tricky when you add a skin that is more common, that is to say, a dominant palette. So, if instead of melanistic the one grandparent was iconic, then parent 2 would not be able to pass down its grey palette. Exotic skins are rare, also referred to as recessive, which means they can't compete with the more dominant iconic palette. So while the right amount of points invested into breeding would let the eggs pick all of their skin colours from the grey palette, thus look like a grey, none of the clutch will be able to pass on this recessive grey palette. And if they were to nest with another dragon that is not carrying 2 grey palettes themselves, then none of the nest have a chance to inherit this recessive palette. I do think crafted skins could also have a place in this system, or at least crafted palettes. As I said before, I do not believe that palettes themselves will be editable. I do think there will be a chance, much like the current system, instead of inheriting one of the parents' palettes, special breeding combinations, such as within the melanistic and leucistic, the Oreo palette could get formed and passed down. This would be a super fun and complex system, as crafted palettes would likely end up being more dominant than exotic palettes, thus making it easier to at least get some of the rarer colour to move easily and flow through the bloodlines. Again, this is all speculative on my part, but I do think we will likely see something along these lines for the skin system from the information we have gotten so far, and that is not even touching on the new pattern system, which Patreons and Kickstarters have had a glimpse at as the developers work to bring the winning skins from the Bio Skin Contest to life. We have seen a few examples of what they're working on and they look stunning. What are all your thoughts on the system? Do you have a different idea on how it might work? I'd love to hear all your thoughts and opinions on future skins. See you all soon!